the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?
Welcome back to the Hishaku Hideout, a weekly podcast where we talk about the latest chapter and everything Kagurabachi. I'm here with Dice.
Yo.
And as a special guest, Weeb loves it when you call him Big Papa.
Good morning, good afternoon. How are we all?
Ooh, what's
Chilling.
up, man?
Chilling.
Today we're talking about chapter 97, The Vessel. And we get to kind of see what's going on with the barrier and how they were able to change its configuration. And it's honestly pretty crazy to me. It starts off with a lot of the narrator, and then the security senpai homie of the Kagurabachi headquarters. That's where I come in, breaking the fourth wall and shit. I thought that was so funny. I was almost is he the narrator?
He actually kind of does break the fourth wall. He legitimately looks at the camera in one of the panels. At that second page there, at the bottom panel, he straight up looks square at the reader, which I like.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, he's pretty crazy.
That definitely caught me by surprise, man. Because it's just, again, Hokuzono finds these ways to really embed the exposition with what's going on, and you never really feel like you're out of the action.
Yeah,
he picked a good time to do it for sure. It's not like he's interrupting a battle sequence and Samura's aura farming. It's a pretty slick way to do it, because the way the chapter starts off, and it is pretty wild. Just how important he is to their whole operation.
Yeah.
But it also makes me think Kazen's his position as the leader. He has so much influence, obviously, and this is what he chose to do with it. I thought his plan was a little bit kind of too elaborate in a sense, for what he possibly could have done at a much easier means than the way he went about. Obviously Yura's going to use him, but he chose to go this way with swapping out the scrolls and creating a new barrier vessel.
I like the way that they've displayed the vessels. There's been this air of uncertainty, I think, between both sides of the Kaminabi and the Hishaku, where when we got the exposition for the Hishaku, you could sort of see an angle where, okay, are we the bad guys here, or are they the bad guys here? What are we seeing here? And then now we've got this chapter where I know obviously these guys are volunteering for this, but what they're doing is incredibly rough. They're essentially being used as a human battery, Matrix style. They are just literally growing these people, keeping them in a specific pool of candidates, and then picking one lucky dude who's just gonna sit, as it's explained, in a liminal space between life and death. And they're getting organs taken out, they're losing their reproductive functions, and then obviously they get compensated, but I still think that the Kaminabi haven't not found a better way to reinforce this field after all these years. Seems what's the word? Prehistoric, maybe? Antique?
Yeah.
It just feels evil,
Making if my dick don't work, you better pay me some freaking crazy money for this. Take the organs, but
Speaking of that, someone in my chat pointed out that Carlos Hishaku a couple of chapters ago couldn't pee, which made them think, what if Carlos Hishaku is the vessel, and as a result has had his organs taken away, potentially? Thoughts, feelings?
Maybe he has some. That's what we were talking about right before you joined. That patch on his face. They depict the vessel at an earlier point in their becoming this center figure for the barrier. They show him with the holes in his chest and his torso, excuse me. And I wonder if he'll have a similar an inscription or something from being a fresher, just going through this. And this also could be why Yura was Yura might have just been gaslighting the poor kid, saying he's the strongest because he went through that and he endured it. You're going through something that not many people can really come back from. And
it's a good angle to look at it.
you are the strongest because like you're vital to this whole, he's basically like, bro, sorry, you gonna die. Like you're not making it, you're not coming back under above ground. What you
you're not
think,
making
Dice?
a little homie. That's it.
Yeah, I would say everything points towards him being the new vessel or the second vessel, especially if that reveal is going to be handled like in like the same way that the traitor reveal was handled, where like everything pointed towards being Kasen. And most people were convinced, but there was like few people were saying like, nah, that could easily be like, to subvert expectations. I feel like, again, with everything you guys mentioned, seems to indicate that it's him. And like, even when that topic is being discussed, we cut to him and he clearly says like Yura will be king, almost in a, maybe it's just the way I look into it, but almost like in a sacrificial way. And again, it's maybe because of the context that we're coming from, like knowing that, and then we cut to him. Again, I think just even the way it's framed, it just points to it being him.
I have an alternative theory that my top two bets right now is obviously Carlos Hishaku is a good pick, I think, for the vessel. But an alternative pick is, I think it could be Tree Hat, the little Tree Hishaku dude who has not been seen in the Kaminabi HQ yet. Again, also a dude missing an eyeball, had it replaced, and he is the only other Kaminabi member, the only other Hishaku member that we've seen actually physically interacting with the barrier himself. He's the one that opens the barrier to let him and Yura into the place in the first place, So I think it could also be him. It could be Carlos, but I think I'm more leaning towards Tree Hishaku, purely based on him interacting with the barrier, him not having any sort of, I don't know, there's a lot of mystery around him, the eyeball, and then also, I'm pretty sure he's one of the only Hishaku members where the tattoo is on a separate hand. It's on an alternate hand, meaning he could have lost a hand in that process, potentially had it replaced, because we know obviously the Hishaku somehow can reattach limbs, so it's potential that happened. What do you think?
The only thing I would say that plays against it being a Tree Shaku is the security system homie says that they entered, like they're in the HQ now, and that they weren't there originally, or he would have saw them. So I mean, the way they paint it, I mean, any kind of like supplemental writing can make it be Tree Shaku, because his trees were like uprooted through, technically his spirit energy is like through the headquarters. And I mean, I think that with like just how he talks in this chapter, it makes it sound like that they're in underground with them.
Yeah.
But I'm not ruling it out. I thought maybe like Best Genist at like, or Bingo, because the panel with the scroll in the on that person's tongue, like in the third, fourth page, I thought that was like Bingo's little Mako demon monster.
Yeah, that's true.
It looks similar when Uraha like slashed it. It almost looked like the same type of drawing.
Yeah.
But it'll definitely be interesting to see like where Hokuzono takes this. I don't think it's gonna. I hope it's not as like long-winded as like I mean, obviously it can't be as like prolonged as the traitor reveal, because this is gonna be happening with us like right before our very eyes, all in the next coming chapters. We can't really cut anywhere else. Really, all the major players are here except Shiba and Hiyuki. And once they get that barrier, that other vessel killed, then that's when they can get in contact with Shiba and Hiyuki and all that.
I mean, I'm interested to see how things are going to play out if and when they do find this vessel. But I'm fully convinced that this is all just like a misdirect, and because I don't know, like if I'm the Hishaku and my plan is to invade a base like this and try and secure an incredibly powerful object, and the one thing that's stopping them from calling for reinforcements is one of my members, I would probably not bring that member into the base.
No, but he might have to be there in order to change the barrier configuration.
Yeah.
It might be vital for him to be in that like building with getting supply with that energy or whatever. But it's like, my thing is, where's the writing going to come from to explain how a new person's able to like overwrite this other guy? I know they're saying just the presence of the second scroll is what's causing it, but they're also the ones like managing the reconfiguration of it to like not allow the two people we need to come in. You know what I mean? They have all the balls in their court, even though like the guy who's been in that position should have a greater understanding of it all. You know what I mean? What do you think, Dice?
Yeah, I mean that specifically is tough to say. Like I have no like really no way to, or like no ideas, right? Like I have nothing to speculate, no theory regarding that specifically. The only thing that kind of, could come close to that is the fact that we really don't know how long ago, because if Kazan swapped the scrolls, how long ago, how long has the new vessel been preparing for this? How good has that preparation been? I think those are questions that the answers to those questions could, put all of this to bed, right? And we just don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely going to need to be flushed out as we go forward. As of now, I think it's like Hishaku is kind of like the easy like 0.2 character to be guilty, and I think like Best Genist is like a very good like second option for me, just because he's the one who teleported them in. He was doing like the scroll work before all that. It seems like him and Toto are kind of like the logistical sorcery members of the Hishaku. Like they have like more ingrained sorcery stuff or more knowledge of like just sorcery in general. So I could see it also being Best Genist somehow, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how Hokuzono takes this one. And I mean, other than that, we don't get really a whole lot of there's not much action in this chapter. It's more just like a reprieve from the previous chapters with like all the action and the Magatsumi. But I ain't gonna lie, I did like the fact of Hishaku saying Yura will be king, because that is our goat over here. As we cut to a Yura and Azami. But I didn't really hear much of your opinions, Weeb, of like the whole Azami versus Yura fight. How you been liking it?
I've been enjoying it. It reminds me a lot of Gojo vs Sukuna. It's got this rising tension factor to it, in my opinion, where anything can go wrong here. Like, either Azami could pull out something crazy here and potentially stop Yura's rise to power before he fully gets his hands on something ridiculous from the Shinoichi, or, next chapter, it's just Azami's legs standing there.
So we left off with you talking about Azami's cold, dead legs just standing there in front of our king, Yura. I think Yura's going to hit his ass so hard, all the coins going to fly out of Yura's pocket like Sonic. That's what I think.
I potentially agree with that. I mean, this dude's already said that his muscle fibers and his bones are shredded. He's like, I'm still going to punch you with that. But I'm like, do you really want to punch a dude who's got centipedes crawling out of his mouth right now? Like, I don't know about that one, Chief. Like, maybe let's take a little beat here and think about the game plan, you know what I mean?
Chicken nugget by the end.
Yeah, I think this dude's about to get turned into some French fries type shit, like, it might be worse than Kashimo the waffle, He might just get split down in 7 different ways here. I just don't fancy his chances for survival.
Yeah, I agree. And they're talking that shit too. Like, Azami's, kind of pretty much telling him, like, you're almost about to be done. And Yura's like, no, I'm about to live up to your expectations. I just think that whole back and forth is so cold, man.
Yeah, Azami definitely got aura. Like, I give him shit, and I was kind of like cooking him in our last episode. I actually like Azami. He's in my top 5. It's just like, there's a saying over here at the Hishaku hideout: if you stand in front of Yura, you gotta die unless you're Chihiro. It's like, that's just how that's my goat.
Die or horribly maimed, in my opinion. Die or horribly maimed, to be honest with you, because I genuinely don't fancy this guy's chances. Like, he might come out of here looking like Kazan, you know what I mean? Like, he might be missing an arm or two, I genuinely don't fancy the stage chances at all.
You're gonna see Azami at a beach looking into the water saying the enchanted blades should not be out. Yeah. They should not be a thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think what I really like about this as well is I talked about this last week, that Azami's resolve differed from Yura's in the way that Yura's resolve, when he turned up here, this man was prepared to die. You see him talking about it just before the fights kick off multiple times, that he's like, we're risking our lives here. This isn't like it. So like that implies a level of failure that can happen, and Yura has accounted for it. He's like, this could fail. We could die here. This is it. This could be the end. So he's prepared to lay his life down. I mean, even in this chapter itself, it's stated that whoever is this vessel is potentially given their life to do this, you know what I mean? Which means that the Hishaku have turned up here fully, all of them, all prepared to die in combat. I mean, even Hokuto is also another great example of this. This dude's looking for the best fight that he can so he can die in glorious battle, so he can go visit Valhalla or whatever deity this dude believes in. But Azami's resolve last chapter didn't really feel like that. It felt more along the lines of, I'm only here to avenge Kunishigi. Because almost every interaction that we saw him have with either internal monologue or with other characters, it felt like it was just revenge driven. But now, in this chapter, he's like, I just got to do this before I die, and that's it. So now he's like, I think he's starting to settle into the fact that this could be like his final swan song here. Like this might be his grand exit, you know, which I really like.
I can agree to that with Yura like bringing up the whole coin flip with the old man. Like Yura might have just had like a loaded coin, like a double-headed coin or some shit, you know. No, I mean, I do think like Yura's like, obviously I think Yura was like legit putting his life on the line. Motherfucker pulled a knife out of nowhere. I'd never seen him do that before. Placed that bitch on the table and said, let's go. And I think that's what, those like villains that feel very like down for the cause, that they'll get into like the mud, they get into it themselves. Like, Yura's like the planner, he's manipulating all these things, but it was all for like this play. Everything is like, he even counted on Samura like unblinding himself. Like he's like, he's accounting for all these things, and he's like on Hirohiko and Pishaku's soul, we gonna get this, because those two, or whoever the other vessel is for this barrier keeper, and if his goal is to kill the sword master, which that automatically means Hirohiko's dying, and so he's already on Hirohiko's soul, and like he's literally got like
he's already
on Hirohiko's soul,
bro.
on Pishaku's soul, and maybe, and honestly I don't think Hokuto's gonna make it out of here.
I don't think Hokuto makes it out of here, but I don't think it's because you're sacrificed him. I think it's just because he's psychotic.
I think he sees Samura. I think Samura's first fight might be against him, and Hokuto is not going to have a say so in fighting him or not, because they're going to know they're going to know this dude's legit. And I mean, he doesn't have
Hokuto's
going to take his swing at like a goat, and he's going to Samura's going to put that fiery bird on him.
He's gonna get sent flaming through the pearly gates backwards, through the fucking fiery gates. Like, this dude's not making it out of here. Like, not even through like an accidental death. I think he's come here like specifically to die in glorious combat. You know what I mean? Very Viking.
Don't call me unless I'm gonna die.
And like a samurai, right? So
I
literally. Think one thing I want to say about Yura as well is that regarding the whole thing about like him really being about it and putting his life on that line, and Weeb, specifically what you said, I thought you were cooking, because we've been talking about it here for a couple of episodes now. Like, Yura's level of determination is unparalleled. It's on another level. Like, even Azami's sense to avenge his best friend in Kunishige, you cannot compare that with what Yura is doing. And the thing is, the craziest thing is that it's been consistent this whole time. Like, Yura had no problem showing up to the Rakuzaichi, even if it's just to kind of taunt Chihiro. It's not very like final villain, and we still don't really know for a fact that he's gonna be the final villain, right? But they really don't kind of do that type of shit typically, right? And again, he's doing, he put his life on the line with the coin flip. That's like a second time where he proves that he's really about it, and all to really like fight the resolve of the sword saint. right? Excuse me. So it's crazy that like he does it over and over and over again. He proves that he's really about it, and you guys cannot match my level of determination. It's just, this is why we glaze him over here, man, because he's worth the praise.
Yeah. It reminds me of what Gojo said in JJK to Megami. Risking your life to win and throwing your life away, winning are not the same thing. You know what I mean? I think like Yura is like the perfect encapsulation of that. I mean, like even his first encounter with Chihiro, where Chihiro notes like his mentality strength, like how like mentally determined you've got to be to willingly let your arm be cut off, willingly take a stab to the chest, all just so you could spit blood on a motherfucker, is insane levels of like mental fortitude. You know what I mean? So I do really fuck with Yura for that, because at the very least, you know, like if he loses, he's not gonna go out like Mahito. You know, he's not gonna go out sniveling and crying. He's gonna go out like gloriously. You know what I mean? Like he might shed a tear or two, but like he's gonna go out and be like, damn.
The
when I was swinging, you know,
the tear he sheds is gonna like resonate. You know, there's because we still don't know like his origin story, and I think that is like the thing that I got the most like investment in as a Kagurabachi reader weekly. It's Chihiro and Yura are my two favorite characters, and obviously if Yura isn't the final villain, I can live with that, because I do trust Hokuzono to do his thing. Just because it's what I want doesn't mean it's necessarily for the best or is what Hokuzono's plan is, you know? So like I'm trying to like at least keep an open mind and just pray that it ain't Hishaku's bum ass. Because if he's just chilling up there, the only one that's not really like putting his life on the line, waiting for like the scraps to like, you know, come in after it's all over when Yura's dead and like pick up a easy win, I'm gonna be really, really frustrated with that. I just don't like Hishaku. But I mean, it could still, like, obviously that could still bang because we don't know anything about him either. And he's been there for all like the important moments. He's the first villain we see in the entire story. The first Hishaku member. Yeah. So I mean, like,
he reminds me of Zetsu from Naruto, to be fair. Like creepy plant dude, just always there in the background. We don't really know much about him, and obviously that guy turned out to be a major player at some point. So that's the vibes that I get from
Hishaku. Could be very well like Akatsuki coded. You know, like them wanting to bring the nation under rule. It could be like a pain type of motivation, or like actual Nagato, I should say specifically. This like central hub of like to control and make sure that people don't go to war with each other type of thing. And we don't know how like twisted this dude is. We just know that he's resolved. Yeah,
one thing I want to ask you guys, because Tiberius, we've been talking about it as well for the last couple of episodes. It's this question of how allied or how aligned are the interests of the traders and Kazen's comrades within the Kamunabi and the Hishaku themselves. We're both, because even though I was a bit more on the fence than you, we were both kind of leaning towards it just being like very few agreements, right? And like the only thing that the only common goal left was just kill the Sword Saint. But I remember we were talking about like whether Kazen would like somebody like Yura wielding the Magatsumi, because before this chapter he talks about there being like a new wielder for the Magatsumi, but we weren't exactly sure if like Kazen, like the way he sees order completely aligns with what Yura wants to do for the nation, right? Like he says, I'll bring order to this nation. And I think this chapter pretty much seals, or maybe not entirely, but at least I think so, that Kazen is pretty much totally allied with the Hishaku. Maybe the Hishaku have some other plans, but I think very clearly that Yura is the type of guy, or maybe exactly the guy that Kazen wanted to wield the Magatsumi. What do you guys think?
Well, I got that one theory about, there's I forget how many, like 10 Hishaku members, but there's like 9 Kamunabi members, right? And with like, I was saying like, what if Kazen is, made like this like pinky, the pinky ring deal with Yura, essentially like him replacing the whole Kabunabi higher ups with the Hishaku, and have his like basically this evil organization, but now it's an actual government. How people see their government as evil organizations, this would be like a legit evil organization turned into a government.
Yeah.
And I'm still wondering if Kazan, like, because Kazan's the one by the Magatsumi. I'm thinking that because he sounds like he got small dick energy, and he's way. That's what he had. So he's waiting for Yura to kill the Sword Saint using the Magatsumi's power, and then that's when Kazan's going to grab it himself and try and wield that bitch. That's what I think his plan is. But I think Yura is sent out Bingo, Urin, and all them. Go find Kazan and kill him.
I don't know, man. I don't think Kazan's getting up to do anything. I mean, this dude just got the side of his
He's melted to the wall still.
Yeah, I think he's literally he's a feature on the wall right now. You know what I mean? Like, he's not. I don't think he's getting up at any point soon, brother. Like, I think at best, I think you might be giving Kazan a bit too much credit. Like, maybe, yeah, sure, he does agree with Hishaku's plots, ploys, and plans to overthrow the government and potentially rule Japan with an iron fist, but I don't think Yura sees him as anything more than a pawn. I think Kazan to Yura is nothing more than what Yura was to Yura, you know? He's literally just a pawn, a guinea pig, to see how far he can get inside of the Kaminabi. And now, Kazan's essentially just ran that course, you know? Like, he's fulfilled his usefulness. He got the Hishaku essentially into the Kaminabi, and now that's it, you know what I mean? What use does Yura have for Kazan's wants and needs once he's got all of the Shinoichi, as far as I'm concerned? And I think that goes into why he's got so many like ragtag rogues for the Hishaku. Because as you were speaking there, the only person that we've seen so far interact with Yura in a way that sort of implies their goals align is Carlos and Trihat Hishaku. The rest of the Hishaku members don't seem to be too arsed about helping Yura. Well, obviously they do want to help Yura, but I don't think they ultimately give a flying fuck about his goals ultimately, you know? Like, Hokuto's there just for the squabble, for the beef, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then you've got fucking Toto. She seems nonchalant as hell. Sojo definitely didn't give a fuck about what Yura wanted, do you know what I mean? He's just there for the enchanted blades. And then Hidehiku, I mean, he's just a mad dog. He's going wherever he wants, you know what I'm saying? So I do think it's interesting, like the makeup of the two organizations, especially like when you compare them side by side. Obviously, you've got the Hishaku's literally just a ragtag villains, basically, and then the Kaminabi, which is obviously an organized government official, but obviously they're split down the middle on how they agree with it about the Shinoichi. But I do think you're giving Kazan a bit more credit than what he's due. I think he's done. Which, if he is done, I'll be a bit sad about it, to be fair.
Yeah, I agree. Like, he's definitely, like, I mean, Azami turned him into a poster on the wall, essentially, because the dude ain't moved a centimeter.
Yeah.
But if we're gonna look at, like, Kazan as someone that, like, we're just, like, counting out, like, at this point, I gotta start pointing the finger at the Masumi again, because the three higher-ups of the Kabunabi are, like, leagues above the Masumi in terms of, like, sorcery and all that. And we know, like, the Masumi said, oh, yeah, they mastered everything in this library. You know, there's, like, you know, they're legit in sorcery. And, man, I kind of, like, throw shots at the Masumi. I like the Masumi, or I like Ro and Sumi. Moku can go somewhere most of the time. He's just, like, he's just, like, an NPC, basically. But, you know, like, I kind of just throw, like, shit at the Masumi. Just cause, you know, I thought it was funny how during when Samura finally, like, opened his eyes and Yuri and Ikura and the Masumi came up, only the Masumi were calling Ikura the MVP. Chihiro and Samura didn't even talk to that motherfucker once. Didn't even look at him. Like, they just showed that, you know, like, that's not the MVP. What? Like, I mean, obviously I know Ikura played a massive part. I'm not saying that, but I think it's funny how, like, Hokuzono has made this distinction, and he made the distinction early about the enchanted blades being above sorcery, just in terms of, like, a combat. You know, they're just overall, like, the spirit energy can't be kept within the body, so it's like these spirit manifestations of these animals or whatever.
I think you sort of touched on a little bit at power scaling, sort of a little bit there, and I think Hokuzono is right in the story to be ambiguous in that sense. That you can't really sort of get unless it's an enchanted blade, you can't really sort of get a real gauge on what people's powers are in terms of like the overall
and even then
statistics.
How long have they been using it, and into what levels? Because Chihiro is probably fighting lawyers and bankers, and Chihiro before the story, as long as he had it, he must have not been fighting anyone of like notable strength. And I mean, obviously as a kid just learning the sword, I get that, but that's what he even says himself, like, I've had it longer than the people during the war, but I'm not a master. Like it's definitely, there's levels to this shit. But as you said,
quality over quantity at that point, isn't it?
And like I do think it's more of like an ambiguous thing that I do want to see like one full out like sorcery versus sorcery fight. Like just like Shiba. I wanted Shiba and Azami to throw hands, and if that was the only sorcery versus sorcery fight, I'd be happy. But I see I definitely agree with you though. It's a bit ambiguous of saying like, how close is like peak Shiba and Azami to Dice?
I think it's kind of.
Oh no, I just wanted to get Dice's opinion on that before we go too much further on.
Yeah, I mean that whole like using enchanted blades to scale, I've never really been a fan of because of this very same thing you guys are getting into now. One thing that we know for a fact, because Yura is our Lord or Savior and we'll take his word as gospel, is that we know the Shiba is the pinnacle of sorcery, right? Like that term has been specifically used for Shiba, and it's specifically talking about how they had to like dodge him, right? Like avoid him or deal with him. There was also some ambiguous phrasing in how he said that, but that's one thing that we know for sure. Like everything else is kind of with that in the middle. At least that's how I see it. And yeah, I think using the enchanted blades to scale is just kind of tricky because of the same things you guys got into. So there is one thing I want to kind of moving along. There's one thing I want to kind of get your thoughts. Tiberius, you there? Okay.
Yeah.
So one thing that we see towards the end of the chapter, once they know that there's a second vessel, they tell Hakuri and Ichiki tells Hakuri and Kiri to join the battle. This isn't really a big deal, but I just thought it was funny how every time we've seen Hakuri in the previous chapters, they've been stressing on how he needs to take it easy. He just had to teleport the Magatsumi, right? And then now, like, all of that is out the window. Now he needs to join battle. We know Kiri's fine, but Hakuri really joining the battle again, I just thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
I like how he was like, a vessel? Your dumb ass don't know what that word means probably, bro. Your brain don't mush right now.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. The most crazy crackpot theory that I came up with so far is Hakuri's a traitor. Has been for a while. And I know that's out there. I know that is very, very much out there, right? But let's think about the Sazanami family and how obviously they've already interacted with Yura and the Hishaku, and they were already working at points, Hakuri was just allowed to just sort of fly under the radar. I know obviously he wasn't a part of the family, but how do we not know that he was set up to find Chihiro at that exact point, that exact time, and just help him sort of along with all these moments?
Like Yura's manipulated him. He's like, yeah, you should kill your family, but first do this for me. He's like, it is out the realm of possibility. But that's one devoted motherfucker, though. I have to say,
Yeah.
May he make himself give himself brain blood just for the cause.
But there's also like the thing where it's the visual storytelling that with Hokuzono sometimes that I'm just like, I think maybe it could also be like a case of just old age skeptical old man. I'm just shouting at the clouds.
Why did he get Samura as a blade first instead of Uruha? Why didn't he?
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's just interesting, like, little moments there with Hakuri where I'm like, okay, well, maybe if you think about this a second, why did you take that specific action? You know what I mean? Like, and then in this chapter alone, it says, another vessel like me. You skip to the next page, who's there? It's fucking Hakuri. You know what I'm saying? And everyone for a while there was sat there thinking, oh, the Shinoichi is going to be used to, you know, on Hakuri, it's going to take over Hakuri, and then blah blah blah. It's, you know, Sword Saint might teleport himself out with Hakuri. You know, like, I don't know. It's just, there's just something about it that just doesn't seem right to me. You know, there's just something about it, and it could be just an absolute nothing burger, but it's just something about that dude when I'm like, if he turned out to be a traitor, man, I'd start screaming at the clouds, because I think I'd be like, wow, I can see the future with this shit.
Yeah, that's one of those things where I think there's like writing, supplemental writing for it. You know, because you can, and it's another thing too, is like when we read stories, especially not getting, like, being able to binge it all at once, just seeing the you know, the crumbs of like leading to these big reveals, we start, you know, we have to at least you know, entertain the possibility of what character could fit in what, like, the traitor reveal, for instance. I mean, motherfuckers thought Kudo was going to be the traitor still, you know, and like, and they weren't really like crazy for even suggesting that, because, you know, we can never really, if we don't see a body, it's hard to really like say, I mean, shit, we saw Ura die, you know what I mean? Like, even when you see bodies, like, just don't know if someone can come back or play in the game, you know? So like, it's definitely one of those things where, like, when you read it weekly and there's like these different reveals you're waiting to happen or get paid off, you do entertain like the possibility of like the craziest things. And I think content creators can kind of like deepen it a bit too, looking for like, oh, what if this is like the craziest theory, but what if it becomes true? Like, I'd be like, you know, there's like that thing of having that video. Yeah.
Oh, I'm guilty of that. I'm so guilty of that. But like, for me, it's not even like the content thing. I'm just genuinely riddled with crackpots.
Oh, me too.
You know what I mean? Like, I love to like overreach shit. You know, I once made a video about Gojo's eyes being like in regards to like how Gege had colored them, and they were a different color, and I was like, this is gonna be a different power for him. You know what I mean? Nothing came of it, but it was just I saw his eyes being a different color. I was like, hold up, hey, what are you doing?
He's about to use
what's going on here?
Hollow white.
Yep, lime green. It's here. It's time.
A Crayola 64 pack of Crown, you know, ability.
It does.
No, facts though. That is funny.
I was just gonna say, it kind of feels like, you know, these kind of authors like Gege, though I heard, I'm not sure how accurate or if it was just people memeing, you know, the whole colorblind thing. I'm pretty sure that was a joke, but it feels like, you know, those kind of authors lean into, you know, or great authors in general, lean into that sort of speculation and raising questions, right? For this very sort of thing. Definitely feels like it.
Yeah, they do play into certain things to kind of like lead you down a certain road, like these red herrings. You know, if reveals were so easy to figure out, then, you know, it's not much of a, you know, mystery at that point. So you have to have you have to have contentious there has to be like room for like you know, debates on who it could be. That's what you know, we brought JJK up a good bit this episode. But the thing with JJK that was Gege did such a good job of is keeping like the conversation always going. Like, there was never not a conversation happening about JJK, you know, in the fandom. There is times in Kagurabachi where it's not as like, you know, the first 2-3 days are always lit, but it does dissipate. JJK was like, motherfuckers were cranking theories out about last chapter the day before, you know, the new chapter came out.
1 second.
No problem, brother. Yeah, all right. We'll pause here or pause the episode.
We're almost
done.
done.
I didn't even. I gotta pull up. Yeah, we're almost done. I gotta pull up a Weeb stream. I didn't even go up to the stream or nothing. Go leave a like. I was so preoccupied. What's good, chat? All right, y'all. On Dice's Soul, he's about to show feet content.
Why do this to me, man?
Nah. But yeah, man.
What do you think?
I want to like.
Sorry.
No, you're good, bro. I've been talking too much.
No, I was just gonna ask you, like, because we gave this chapter a rating. What do you rate it? You know, we don't really like to do that, but
probably like a 9. You know, any Yura focused chapter where Yura has aura in it, I'm pretty much gonna be spinning on it. You know, just transparent about that. But no, I mean, I think in general, the inclusion of like pulling out more story on this guy that plays such an integral part to the Kaminabi headquarters, the security senpai. We didn't even get his name or anything, which is
No, it's
crazy.
just barrier vessel, I guess.
Yeah, barrier boy. That's what I'm gonna call him. Because how is barrier boy gonna look me in the eye in this chapter and say that's where I come in and not tell me his name?
Yeah, who are you, sir?
Rude. Yeah, that's why he gonna die too. Watch when the Sword Saint actually gets out that cage.
I thought it was funny though that the other barrier dudes, they all like pretty much shit their pants when Izaru's like, oh, there's another one, and it's like,
oh, he's about to start flying them beads off.
Because it's none of them. Like we later know that it's none of them, and they're literally like sweating. I just thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, this motherfucker gonna start throwing his beads at us.
Yeah.
Like Mardi Gras in this bitch.
Yeah, but I guess I would rate the chapter. I guess. Yeah. I guess I would rate it I was gonna go like 8.5, but just the scenes, the Magatsumi scenes towards the end, right, with Yura again putting it all on the line, our GOAT. To me, that just kind of pushes it towards 9 territory. Man, great.
It's hard to rate chapters like in a vacuum, to be fair, because like when you rate a chapter and just as like a standalone chapter, the thing is we've had so much like action the past couple, well, not so much action. Well, yeah, we had a lot of action the last handful of chapters, and this chapter doesn't really have any fighting. It's more just like a slowdown to give us a little bit of exposition on how the barrier works, how they were able, even though this doesn't tell us how they were able to reconfigure the barrier the perfect way that they needed it to. I mean, we don't, maybe we'll get that information. Maybe Hokuzono is just going to leave that out. I don't know. But considering it is a slower chapter in terms of like action pace, I think there's like enough moments here to like give it a 9.
All right.
Valid. Sorry, I have to shoot.
No, you're good,
I'm
bro.
so sorry.
We were getting ready to wrap up anyway.
Thank you for being here, man.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Of course, I appreciate you guys having me on. Cheers. It was a pleasure as always.
Hope
Thank
everything's
you.
all right, by the way.
Have a good one, man.
Yep.
All right, brother. Peace.
All right. You want to kind of do our closing?
All right.
Just to not kind of end the episode so abruptly.
Is there? Yeah. I mean, is there anything you wanted to mention before? Anything else that you were looking forward to?
No, man. I mean, interestingly enough, I think we what we just kind of went through was pretty much general thoughts on the chapter. I think you were on the money in terms of how Hokuzono manages to keep the tension and keep things very interesting, and even kind of putting a whole pause to the Azami and Yura fight. Like it's pretty impressive how, like, again, he was able to introduce the whole vessel plot line, though we both agree that's gonna be resolved fairly quickly. Again, only great authors do this kind of shit, and I really don't know what to kind of expect next chapter, all things considered, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, any author can like interrupt a fight, but a good author can make that break from the action feel worthwhile. And I think that's what Hokuzono has done in this chapter.
Yeah, man.
I guess the only thing left is I want to ask you is, where do you think we go from here? We always talk about where we're headed next. And I'd like to get your opinion on what you think is going to happen next chapter.
Well, I mean, like I said, specifically next chapter, I'm kind of like short on ideas. I do wonder if we're going to cut back to Hakuri and Kiri now that they're like, it's specifically stated that they're back into action. Because now we know that this is no longer the Swordbearer assassination arc. We know this is specifically its own arc. I don't know how long Hokuzono is going to want to like stretch this. And this chapter proves that he has no issues kind of putting things on pause to develop things more. So I don't know, man. Like I genuinely have more questions. Like, is it Chihiro and Samura finally pulling up? Shiba and Hiyuki? Or do we continue this fight? Does Azami finally die? I genuinely, man, and I've been saying this kind of repeatedly for the last couple of chapters, it's been really hard for me to even not just predict correctly, but even put a finger on like what I think is going to happen, right? Broad strokes, yeah, but specifically chapter to chapter has just been really tough to say lately.
Yeah, that's there. Like I've been expecting like a POV switch, you know, and I'm usually good about calling those out. Usually, I'm good about saying like, "Nah, we're not going to," or "We will." Like, but I thought we were going to go to a POV, a Chihiro Samura POV switch, like a couple or two different times, and you know, like much like you, I'm just not sure myself.
Yeah, Hokuzona's cooking.
But yep, as you know, and we'll let him continue cooking because there is a chapter next week. But the art in this one didn't seem too bad. Seems like it's back on pace just about.
Yeah, I would agree. Kind of returning to form, few things here and there, but overall, definitely look like he's finally getting his rest. I would expect the next one to be even better.
Yeah, but I guess I'll do it. Dice, any closing statements? Any
Nah,
final
man, that was
thoughts? All right. Well, we'll catch y'all next week. Make sure to check out Weeb's channel, like and subscribe to the video, subscribe to his channel, Dice's channel, you know, and might as well, you know, plug mine. And other than that, see you next week. Peace.